Dave Ferguson is an award-winning author, founding and lead pastor of Community Christian Church in Chicago, and the visionary behind New Thing, a global church planting movement. He also serves as president of the Exponential Conference, equipping leaders in accelerating multiplication of faith communities around the world. Dave's passion is simple: helping people find their way back to God. Please join us in welcoming Dave Ferguson.
All right, I'll tell you what, it is really, really, really good to be here. I'll tell you, that worship and the testimony of Cheyenne, where's Cheyenne? Thank you very much. Again, very, very much. I live outside of Chicago, and I'll tell you what, I think I would have came all this way just for that worship. Was that spectacular? Thank you, thank the band, man, it's just good stuff's going on. Here's the deal. I lead a conference. One of the things we do at Exponential, it's a big conference. We meet down in Orlando. And every year, I'm telling you, there are more and more folks from the Nazarene denomination that are there. There's I think, somewhere between 500 to 700 Nazarenes that show up at this conference every year. Absolutely. You should be excited about that, right? I'm telling you. So many, I kind of feel like you guys are just kind of, it's like you're subtly just trying to take over the whole thing. I think that's going on. So if you'll allow me, I think I need to be, what do I have to do to become a Nazarene? Because I feel like I'm being assimilated into you guys, whether I want to or not. And I'll tell you what, from what I understand, it is a good time to be a Nazarene. It is a good time. And here's part of, I feel like I'm more excited about this than you guys. There aren't very many denominations right now that are up and to the right, that are growing. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, maybe only two, and one of them is the Nazarene denomination. I'm saying. And I'll tell you what, I mentioned to a couple of you guys here, and it's kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, we're counting on you guys. The rest of everybody else is counting on you guys. And I just want to say, it is so exciting to see how God's at work through the Nazarene Church and through the church planting efforts you're doing across the country. So I'll tell you, do me a favor. I want you to find 3 or 4 other folks, and I want you just kind of to say, you know what, God, give them a fist bump or high five. If you need to stand up, do that. Fist bump or high five. Say, God's on the move, okay? God's on the move. Do that, would you? That's right. And I'll tell you what, oh my goodness, I've already wasted 5 minutes. They only gave me 30. I better keep moving here. Here's kind of the deal too. I think the challenge that I have for you is probably particularly important for this group. Because if that is the case, if there's only two out of 100 some denominations across the United States that are now starting to grow, and one of them's you, we need you to set the pace. Okay? I gather with denomination leaders from all across the country like 3 times a year, and we need somebody to set the pace. And for some reason, I don't understand why, maybe you do, but it feels like God's picked you guys. Right? And that's a privilege, am I right? And if that's the case, I think perhaps what I want to talk to you about tonight is exactly where you need to apply your leadership efforts. Because if you will apply your leadership efforts, this growth that you're starting to experience, I really do believe it can become a movement. And when we see movement, that's how we accomplish the mission. Let me talk to you about this. This probably goes back 6, 7 years, 8 years ago. No, maybe not. Yeah, 7 or 8 years ago, when we pulled together a group of people to take a look at, okay, what are the qualities, what are the practices of leaders that multiply other leaders? And this was based on something that we call the 5 levels of church multiplication. And I'm going to throw it up on the screen here. You can take a look at it. Here's the 5 different levels of church multiplication. If you're not familiar with this, if you've never been to Exponential, let me kind of bring you up to speed on some things. There's basically 5 levels. There's level 1 we call declining. There's churches that are in decline. Less people on mission this year than last year. Level 2 is what we call plateauing. You added a few folks, lost a few folks, but basically you're staying about the same. Now we're talking about level 3. Level 3 is growing. growing churches. Churches that are saying, we got more people on mission this year than we did last year, and we're starting to see this upward trend. Now, here's the deal. Most church leaders, and I don't want this to be the case with the Nazarenes, okay? Most church leaders only think in terms of three categories. Either I'm declining, I'm plateauing, or I'm growing. And the best I can do is grow. And it's a good thing to grow. But it's not the best thing that can happen. Because what we've discovered, especially as we look at church, and as we're going to look in a little bit at the Bible, there's also what we call level 4, a reproducing church. And a reproducing church is a church that's ever planted another church. And then you have level 5. Level 5 are multiplying churches. And we need some of you all to be multiplying churches. Because multiplying churches are churches that see up to 4 generations of multiplication. Like Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the ends of the earth, 4 generations. Like 2 Timothy 2:2, 4 generations. We need to see 4 generations to get to level 5. So what we did is we brought together thought leaders all across the United States. There's about 24 of us down in the city of Atlanta. And we asked the question, okay, what's unique about the leadership in these level 4, and there's almost no level 5 churches in the United States, but particularly level 4 reproducing. And we asked that question, and we started drawing things on white sheets, making a list of all the traits, all the practices, all the characteristics of leaders that multiply other leaders, of leaders that are leading these level 4 kind of churches. And we probably had a list of, 25 or 30 different characteristics or traits. And this isn't just senior leadership like the lead pastor, okay? Because I know we got a lot of lay leaders here. This is like small group leaders, okay? Ministry leaders and staff team leaders and senior leaders. All of them. What was unique about them? We had this long list, about 25 or 30, and I remember we were looking at that list. We kind of had a circle around them, and one of the guys stepped back and said, you know what's unique about these leaders? Look at all that list. It's like they're not trying to be the hero. It's like they're making heroes of other people. It's like they're making heroes of other people. And it wasn't me, it was a guy named Dave Rhodes who said, you know what they are? And he used this phrase. He says, these leaders are hero makers. Are hero makers. Turn to somebody next to you and just point them and say, don't you want to be a hero maker? Don't you want to be a hero maker? They're hero makers. And here's the thing that we discovered. As we began to look at the Gospels again, at Jesus' life, what began to emerge for us is that, you know what, in many ways, that was Jesus' leadership style. That was Jesus' leadership style. He was a hero maker. Look at John chapter 14, verse 12. We'll just go ahead and put it up on the screen here so you can kind of take it in. Jesus says this radical thing, and imagine him saying this. Imagine Jesus looking at you right in the eye and going like, hey, disciple. Imagine him saying this to you. Truly I tell you, whoever believes in me, you're going to do the works that I've been doing. Imagine Jesus saying that to you. I know. But then he goes one more, and he says, no. You're not just going to do the works that I've done. You're going to do even greater things than these. You're going to do greater things than these. And it was like Jesus was looking at his disciples, and he was saying, listen, I'm going to make sure before I'm done with these 3 years that eventually I'm going to train you to reach more people than I ever reached in the 3 years that we were together. I'm going to equip you to take the gospel to more places than I ever went in our 3 years together. You're going to be the ones, he's looking at his disciples, you're going to be the ones that are going to catalyze this movement that's going to reach the world, not me. You're going to be the ones that are going to write the best-selling book, the Bible. You're going to have a greater impact together when we talk about people and reach than I did in my 3 years. And I think in many ways, if you think about Jesus' leadership style, the way he interacted with his disciples, he was a hero maker. He was going to make them the heroes. Now, some people push back and say, okay, hold on. Now, Dave, isn't Jesus our hero? Yes, he is. He stretched out his arms and died on the cross. But here's what I'm talking. I'm talking to you as church leaders, whether it's lay leaders or paid leaders, I don't care, same to me. I'm talking to you as leaders. Well, his leadership style His leadership style was to invest in them so they could do he even said it, even greater things than these. That's what he was trying to do. So in a little bit of time, I want to talk to you about what it looks like for you to be a hero-making leader. Because I'm telling you, with the kind of momentum that your group has, if you will seriously take this on, and every one of you can, you do not have to be a great communicator, you don't have to worship lead like these folks do, you just need to be an average person who loves people and willing to invest in them. If you'll do this, I'm telling you, we could see a movement, and you see a movement will accomplish the mission, and I'm telling you, because I've seen it happen, you will drag all those other denominations with you, and we'll see something special happen across the country. So what do you say, you want to do it? All right, so here we go. What does it mean to be a hero maker? There was a guy who was a mentor of mine, a guy named Bob Buford. Some of you know that name, maybe others you don't. Bob made a ton of money in the cable TV industry. When his only son tragically died, he went through a shift, and he called it Halftime. He actually wrote a best-selling book, maybe some of you have read it, called Halftime. And he said the shift that he went through was from success to significance. From success to significance. But I think you could also say that the shift that Bob made is he went from trying to be the hero to being a hero maker. There were two things that just stick in my head that Bob would always say over and over again. Bob would say this: we're the platform, we're not the show. Think about that, leadership. We're the platform, we're not the show. And to illustrate how he lived that out, one of the things he always did, he would have either in his back pocket or in his wallet, have a 3x5 card, and it would have the names of 10 or 12 younger leaders that he was investing in relationally and financially. And he was doing everything he could to make them successful. And for a while, I got to be one of the names on his list. Out of that idea of we're the platform, not the show, he started two different organizations. One was called Halftime, which did everything they could to make business leaders successful, to help them move from success to significance. And the second thing he did, he started an organization called Leadership Network, which is the same thing for ministry leaders. Again, he'd say, we're the platform, we're not the show. But my favorite thing that he would always say, and this is kind of the mantra, okay, if you're going to be a hero-making leader, here's what you need to think about. He would say this, I love this. He would say this: my fruit grows on other people's trees. My fruit grows on other people's trees. If you're not writing anything down, write that one down, okay? You'll just think about that and say that over and over and over again. My fruit grows on other people's trees. See, that's what it means to make that shift from being a hero to being a hero maker. Let me give you another example. This is a favorite one of mine. Anybody in here a runner? You like to run distance running? Anybody? Oh, there we go. All right, there is two of us, me and you, buddy. All right, I'm your man. I'm not fast, but I can go a long ways. Same thing, all right. Let me show you a picture here. This is Shalane Flanagan, all right? Shalane Flanagan is probably in recent history, the greatest female distance runner in the United States, all right? You guys don't seem very excited about Shalane Flanagan. Yeah, all right, come on. That's right. So Shalane, in 2017, this will give you a little perspective. In 2017, there was no female American that had won the New York City Marathon in 40 years. It was always a Kenyan, always someone from some part of Africa. They just were kicking our butt. Always somebody else from some other place. Hadn't been a female American win the New York City Marathon in 40 years. In 40 years. She wins the New York City Marathon. Now, here's what I want you to do. I pulled this from the New York Times. The day after she won, they have a write-up in the New York Times about Shalane. And I want you to listen to the way they describe Shalane, but I want you to think as a church leader. All right, you with me? Listen to the way they describe her. Here's what they say. When Shalane Flanagan won the New York City Marathon last week, her victory was about more than just an athletic achievement. Of course, it's remarkable. She's the first American to win in 40 years, and she did so in a blistering time of 2 hours and 26 minutes. That's fast, isn't it? All right, there we go. One guy. That's really fast. Okay? Listen to the rest of this. Here we go. But perhaps, even bigger than winning the New York City Marathon, but perhaps Flanagan's bigger accomplishment lies in how she nurtures and promotes the rising talent around her. a rare quality in the cutthroat world of elite sports. Now listen to this. Every single one of her training partners, 11 women in total on Team Nike, all of them have made the Olympics while training with her. An extraordinary feat. They call it the Shalane effect. Okay, I'm going to pick on somebody. What's your name? Alexis. Imagine if they had, she's going like, why did I sit in the front row? Imagine if they had an Alexis effect. Everybody knows, right? Come on, you guys got to vouch for it, right? Everybody knows Alexis is up to some awesome stuff, right? That's why she's sitting in the front row. Let's hear it for Alexis, right? Woo! Alexis is up to awesome stuff, but you know what? Everybody also wants to get close to Alexis because they can just get close to Alexis. They know they get to go to the Olympics too. That's what they call the Shalane effect. Listen, this isn't like even a devotional. This is just the New York Times. Listen to this. The Shalane effect. You serve as a rocket booster for the careers of women who work alongside you while catapulting forward yourself. Again, I'll tell you what, listen to this, church leaders, and think of it from a church leader's perspective. It goes on to say, Shalane has pioneered a brand of team mom to these young and up-and-comers with the confidence not to tear others down or to protect her place in the hierarchy. If God's put you in a place of influence, it is not there for you to protect your place in the hierarchy. Okay, so that was 2017. 2018 comes along. Now it's the Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon, okay, yeah, you're with me. Okay, so no female American has won the Boston Marathon in 33 years. Again, some are from Kenya, some are from Uganda, some are from Ethiopia, but never an American. 33 years. What do you think happens? Shalane wins? Think hero maker. Yes. So there's this other runner named Des Linden. Okay, Des Linden is a great runner, but she always comes up short. She's always in second or always third. She never wins the big one. Literally, go back and look this up yourself. Shalane goes to Des Linden in 2018 before the Boston Marathon and says, Des, this is your year. This is your year. The Boston Marathon, you Google this, 2018. Terrible conditions, freezing cold, and it's raining, okay? So we're the only two runners, but you guys imagine you're running for 26.2 miles, and it's freezing cold, and it's raining. It's just miserable. Runners are dropping out. It's just terrible conditions, everything. Shalane and Des basically run the whole thing together, even so much so they actually stop at the bathroom together. I guess that's what girls do. But then they get to the end, and Shalane's trying, but she doesn't have it that day, and Des Linden becomes the first female American to win in 33 years. Is that an awesome story? Now, if that wasn't enough, I love this story, and I love telling this story. If that wasn't enough, I think the year was like 2000, let me do the math. I think it was 2016 was the Olympics. Don't hold me to that. 2016 was the Olympics. 125 women from all across the country made the Olympic marathon qualifying time, 125 only. Fast forward to 2020, we don't have it in 2020 because of COVID, 2021. 2021, 500 women make the qualifying time for the Olympic marathons. How in the world do 4 times as many women make the qualifying time in 2021 as they did in 2016? Nobody can figure out, and the only thing they can point to is the Shalane effect. You see how movement happens? You see how movement happens? When you're a hero maker. And I'll tell you what, this story's a little bit personal for me because in 2018, my daughter, Amy, but I have 2 boys that are both runners. They were always runners. One of them was a 2-time All-American, and they're runners, runner. They're fast, not like me. They're fast. But my daughter Amy had always been cheering them. She came to me. She said, "Hey, Dad, would you run the Chicago Marathon with me next year?" And what do you say when your daughter asks you to run the marathon? He's like, "No." What do you mean? No is the obvious answer. What do you think I am? No, I said yes. And I'll tell you what. In 2019, Amy and I ran the Chicago Marathon together, and I would still say that it's one of the most memorable moments in my life, getting to run that with her and see her do something really hard like that. And in some ways, it was a part of the Shalane effect. Are you with me? That's what we're talking about, all right? Now, here, I want to break this down, okay? Because that's what it means to be a hero maker. And I want to give you really quickly the 5 practices of what it means to be a hero maker. And I'm going to kind of have you participate with me. This is kind of like what we do in kids' church, but this will help you remember it, okay? Point to your head. Come on, work with me. There you go. Oh, look at you guys. You guys are awesome. Okay, the first shift you have to make is multiplication thinking. You got to start thinking differently. The second one, point to your eyes. Permission giving. You got to start seeing the world differently and seeing the people out there differently. Thirdly, put your hand on your heart. Disciple multiplying. What you're going to start doing is not, okay, just tell them what you know, but you're going to share your life, share your heart with these folks. Thirdly, hold your hands like this. Instead of asking God just to bless you, come on, you're slowing down here. Put your hands out there, okay? There you go. Instead of just asking God to bless you, you're going to do this with me. You're going to bless the leaders you're sending out. Gift activating. Bless the leaders you're sending out. Do like this, like you're counting. Do like this, like you're counting. Let me see a couple. Your fingers. All right, like you're counting. Okay, kingdom building. And what you do with kingdom building, you don't just count how many people are coming to my thing, like my church or my ministry, how many, but you're counting how many people am I sending out to do God's thing. I'm telling you, and if you're gonna set the pace for other denominations, and we need you to, I'm telling you, this is the way to do it. And every one of us can do this. Let me give you real quick again. Let's go back. Point your head like this, okay? There's a shift in how you think, and it's multiplication thinking. Jesus did this. In Acts 1:8, he says, listen, my Spirit's going to come upon you, okay, and you are going to be my witnesses. You are going to go from Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. Notice, 3 different times the pronoun you is used. I'm not going to do it, but you are going to do it. You. I'm going to work to make sure you get this done. I was in a workshop, and a guy named Neil Cole was speaking. And Neil said this. He said, I want you to take your current dream for your church. Take your current dream for your church. And my dream, listen to what I'm saying this, for my church was that my church would have 1,000 people. All right? Now don't be deceived. Level 1, 2, or 3. That's level 3, isn't it? I'm just trying to grow some. And it was my church. I thought, maybe I could communicate well enough to hold the attention of 1,000 people. And even if I couldn't communicate well enough to hold the attention of 1,000 people, maybe what I could do is I could organize well enough that I could get 100 small groups of 10 people each, and then I'll get there. I'll figure this out. How can I do this? And then he says this. He says, take your current dream for your church and multiply it by 1,000,000. Right. Multiply it by 1,000,000. 1,000 times 1,000,000. Somebody help me with the math. A lot. Yes, technically that is a lot. 1 billion. 1 billion. 1 billion people. And then Neil said this. Now I want you to figure out, how do you accomplish that dream? And here's what happened. This is why you got to start thinking differently. Okay? What happened is all of a sudden, I knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't preach well enough. I couldn't organize well enough. In fact, 1 billion, to even get close to that number, even to start thinking, I knew I was going to have to plant lots of churches. I was going to have lots of leadership residents. I might even have to work outside my denominational lines. I was going to have to do all kinds of things, all kinds of places to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? And I would challenge you, take the current dream you have for your ministry. Take the current dream you have for your church. And maybe 1,000,000 is too big for you. Do this. Just multiply it by 100. You multiply it by 100 on the back of a napkin. You try to figure out how to make that work. Because here's the thing. Here's the first thing about multiplication thinking. You need to have a dream so big that you can't do it without God's help. You need to have a dream so big that you can't do it without God's help. Multiplication thinking. So it starts with that. First of all, you got to start thinking differently. Okay, don't just think what you can do. Think about what could possibly happen as you begin to work through all kinds of other people for years and years and years, okay? And so that's the second thing. Point your eyes. Point your eyes. Here's the second one. The first one's multiplication thinking. The second one is this, permission giving. Permission giving. And what you do is See, a hero will think, I just want to see what God can do through my leadership. But a hero maker will say, I want to see what God can do through others, and then I let them know what I see in them. I let them know what I see in them. I was in middle school at church camp. So imagine a 12, 13-year-old version of me, okay? 12, 13-year-old version of me. And at that particular middle school camp was a guy who named Dennis Gamoff. Dennis Gamoff. You don't know how big a deal Dennis Gamoff was. Dennis Gamoff had been a high school basketball All-American. Dennis Gamoff played basketball at Purdue University, okay, in the Big Ten. And so in my part of the world, that was a big deal, especially for a little guy who loved basketball. The Dennis Gamoff. I need a little something from you in there, okay? Right, that's a big deal, okay? The Dennis Gamoff. So, I mean, he's like awesome at everything. He's awesome at everything. We're playing softball. He's awesome at softball, right? We finished up at the softball field. I'm walking across the field back towards the canteen like this with the softball field behind me, and all of a sudden I feel this big hand on my shoulder. And I turn around, and who do you think's standing there? The Dennis Gamoff. And he says to me, 12, 13-year-old version, me, he says, Dave, I've been watching you. I see in you somebody who could be a really good leader. I see in you somebody who could be a really good leader. I still remember that. 12 or 13, that's a long time ago. Those are the four most important. If you're going to be a hero maker, here you go. Okay, how you see the world different. There's the four most important letters in a leader's alphabet. I'll tell you, take this one home and use it. I see in you. I'll tell you, Alexis, you do this. You find people, you find other girls, you find other guys, and as you have a chance to influence them, you tell them, hey, here's what I see in you. And as your influence grows, I'm telling you, when someone has that kind of conversation with you, all of a sudden everything starts to feel possible. And this is true. Some of you, I got to get an amen on this one. Some of you are in this room because somebody saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. Isn't that right? Somebody believed in you before you believed in yourself. Someone gave you a chance to do ministry probably before you deserved it. Right? We got to do a whole bunch of that because guess what? If that big dream multiplication thinking is going to happen, permission giving, we have to have a lot of these I see in you conversations. Then the third practice, okay, moving quickly. Third practice, put your hand on your heart. Put your hand on your heart. Okay, it's called disciple multiplying. A hero will just share what they learned to add more followers. This cannot be just cognitive content, but instead a hero maker takes Jesus' approach and he says, I share my life on life, to multiply disciples to the third and fourth generation. If you take a look at the Gospels and all the events in Jesus' life, do you think he spent more time with the crowds, the masses, feeding the 5,000? Or do you think it was more with the few, with the 12, with his small group? What's fascinating, 76%, right around 76% of his time was spent with just the few. 24% of his time was spent with the crowds. Think about this. How much time, church leaders, do we spend planning for the large group event? Someone like this one. Versus multiplying disciples. I don't know who was it. Somebody said it. They tried to act like I said it first. I didn't ever say this, but I'm going to quote somebody here who said, the night they were telling me at dinner, said, you know what? If you multiply disciples, you will plant churches. But if you plant churches, you won't necessarily multiply disciples. And guess what? All y'all, everybody in this, oh man, gosh, I sound like I'm from Oklahoma. All y'all. All y'all can multiply disciples. Am I right? We can all do this. In fact, there's this little passage, John 3:22, where it says Jesus spent some time with them. You probably ran right past it. Jesus spent some time with them, and it's a composite of two words called diatribo, okay? Diatribo, it's a Greek word. Diatribo just means to rub off. Jesus spent time just rubbing off on them. Just rubbing off. I'll tell you, do me a favor. Just the person next to you, just kind of rub on them a little bit there. There you go. Just kind of rub off. That's what you got to do, right? Nicely done. Very good. All right. Next one. Here we go. Then number 4. Put your hands out like this. Hands out like this, right? A hero asks God to bless my gifts. Bless and use my gifts. And that's a good thing. It's good to be a hero. But here's the deal that we're trying to get to. It's greater things, okay, to be a hero maker. Instead, we ask God to bless the leaders we're sending out. We're blessing the leaders, and you fully activate their gifts. So you got this big dream now. You've 100x'd your dream. You know you can't do it on your own. So you start seeing everybody out in your pews, out in your chairs, in your classes, in your ministries differently. Like, oh man, they got potential for leadership. They got potential for leadership. You're having IC&U conversations. You're bringing them alongside you, and you're apprenticing these leaders. You're investing in them. Now, here's the deal. They do not stay your perpetual assistant. They do not stay your perpetual assistant pastor. They do not stay forever as your co-leader, okay? Because I know that kind of feels good, feels secure, but instead, what you do is you fully activate their gift and you commission them and you send them out. You commission them and you send them out. That's what it means to fully activate their gifts. That's what Jesus said. He said, hey, all authority, isn't that right? All authority I give to you, and you go. You give them the authority, and then you say, no, you go lead. You got this thing. I'll still coach you, but you got this thing. You go start that small group. You go plant that church. You lead that network. Then the 5th thing, all right? You still with me? Here we go, count. Let's put your fingers up there and count. We're going to start counting differently. And we need you guys. I'm talking to you as a whole group and a tribe. We need you to start counting differently. Don't make the mistake, because it's great, okay? You're saying, oh, we're up 8% this year in attendance. That's great. But we're not going to just count the number of people who are coming to my thing. I don't want this to become some weird competition like who has the biggest Nazarene church. Instead, what you count is how many people am I sending out to do God's thing? How many are we sending out to plant churches? How many are we sending out to be missionaries? How many micro churches are we sending out? How many am I sending out to start new initiatives in our communities? How many am I sending out? That's what really counts. And that's how you get to movement. I was at our one of our locations up in Chicago, the church we planted. It was actually our largest one. My assistant comes to me. And it's not my current assistant, actually my former assistant named Pat. And Pat was a tough lady. She was awesome, but she was a tough lady. And she came to me and she said, hey, you got an appointment with Sam. I said, Sam who? And she said, I don't know. Sam. And I'm like, Pat, why are you making appointments with me with people we don't even know their name? You know, she's supposed to kind of help me organize, steward my time. And she said, well, I don't know, but he's here. You better get downstairs and go talk to him. So I was like, all right. So I go downstairs into our cafe, and Sam's there, and so I kind of put on the pastoral happy face, right? Some of you know what I'm talking about. And I stick my hand out, hey, Sam, tell me your story. And I shake his hand. And so he starts to tell me his story. He grew up in India. His dad had started this ministry to plant churches. So I'm going, oh, that's kind of cool. And from the 60s to about the 90s, they had planted over 200 churches. I know. I was like, oh, thank you, Pat, for making this appointment. Because I'm going like, this is awesome, 200 churches. And then he proceeds to tell me, he said, well, he said, that was in the mid-90s. And he said, I still remember, I was over at my mom and dad's house. We had a great time together. We stayed up late in the night talking. And the last thing my dad said to me was, hey, son, whatever you do, don't lose the vision. Whatever you do, don't lose the vision. And I didn't think much of it. I just kind of took it as dad giving me a pep talk. He said, and I went home, and that night my mom called me and said that dad suddenly got violently ill. They had to rush him to the hospital. And Sam's dad actually not only got ill, but he went into a coma. Never came out and passed away. And so Sam told me the last thing his dad said to him is, hey, son, whatever you do, don't lose the vision. He said, so it was in the mid-90s I took over the ministry, our little church planting ministry. He said, but I kind of tweaked things a little bit. One of the things I did is I asked all of our church planters, okay, everybody who was leading a church, think about this for you, to not just lead that church, but also bring someone alongside you that you're going to train for a year to plant a church, and then you're going to release them to go plant a church. And then the next year, you're going to bring someone else alongside you, and you will lead your church, but you're going to train them during that year, and then you're going to release them to plant a church. And then the next year, you lead it again for another year, but you bring someone else alongside you, you disciple, multiplying, gift activate, and you send them out. Does that make sense? So now I'm really curious. I said, so Sam, how's it going? Tell me more. He says, it's going pretty good. And I said, well, like how good? And he said, well, so far we've planted about 70,000 churches. Seriously. I mean, I was glad I was sitting down. And I think he must have thought, I don't know what my expression was, I must have thought I wasn't impressed. Because the next thing he says, but our goal is we want to plant 100,000. That's our big dream. We want to plant 100,000 churches. All right, I want you to think about what just happened there, all right? Multiplication thinking, right? All of a sudden, Sam has this big dream. He wants to plant how many churches? 100,000 churches. That's a dream so big, right? Makes him dependent on God. And he can't do that on his own. Permission giving. Every year, he said, what I want you to do, church plant, every year, church leader, what I want you to do is not just lead your church, but you bring someone alongside you, train them how to plant a church. Into that year, then you release them to go plant a church. You have an I see in you conversation with someone else. Say, hey, you can plant a church. Let me train you, show you how to do it. Disciple multiplying. You spend a whole year with them, right? Diatribo. Life on life. Disciple multiplying, training them how to do it. At the end of that year, they don't stay as your assistant pastor for forever, right? No, instead, you fully activate their gifts and you send them out and you go, no, you go, because I got someone else I'm going to train up. And when I asked him, how's it going? What did he say? He didn't tell me how many people came to his church. I have no idea how big his church is. And my hunch is probably rather small. But what did he tell me? So far, we've planted what? 70,000. It's about sending, not seeding capacity, sending capacity, right? That's what we're talking about. How are we going to get to movement? I'm telling you, maybe I don't know. We'll find out someday. Maybe part of the reason God brought me here, because he saw the good stuff that you guys are doing. He knows you just needed one more little kind of kick in the seat of the pants. Like, come on. We're all counting on you guys. Because I'm telling you, if every one of you will take this on, and quite frankly, we don't need every one of you. We just need a percentage of you to take this on. You can go from growing, which is a good thing, which is what you got going on right now, right? That's awesome. But that's just a good thing. The greater things, I'm telling you, the way you guys started out years ago, you know your history better than I do. This thing can be a movement again. It can be a movement again. And I'm telling you, God wants it even worse than you do. Even worse than you do. All right, let's go full circle. We started out, what? They had a praying, right? We were praying for one other person, weren't we? Is that how we started? Remember we were huddled up with someone you don't know? We were praying for one other person? See, our motivation for seeing a movement is because that's how the mission gets accomplished. But I want to bring it home, the real grassroots, because if the mission gets accomplished, that's how that one person that you were just praying for finds their way back to God. That's how that one person who's far from God becomes a Christ follower. And it not only changes their life in the here and now, but it also changes their life for eternity. And what I want you to do, just go ahead and bow your head. I want you to think about that one person, because that's what's at stake in this conversation. I may have used a lot of big numbers and a lot of dramatic stories, but what's at stake is that one person. And as you think about that one person, I want you to listen to the words of this song and hear Nick sing, okay?